if you fall apart and melt in the climate of a seductress and completely ignore the good girl who will not flirt with you because you're not her husband, but she makes it clear that I can talk if you want to talk. Your loss when you missed that bus, and he missed it, and he's among the people today that's wreaking havoc in my life, trying to marry me now that he's gone and taken a wife. He eventually did take another one. Now he wants to divorce her for me. Somebody say witchcraft, go to bed. Same Temba that out here accommodate women that are winking at him. Now he wants the girl that greeted him, that said goodbye to him in a fresh way that was not, however, oozing sex. They deserve each other. Temba and Jezebel, women that out here be flirting with men. A godly man will know whose goodbye to respond to appropriately between mine and that little Jezebel's. Temba was supposed to be like, bye Karabo, and then look down go desk in your hair and say, my goodness, she's pretty. How am I gonna ask her out instead of being giddy and feeling all flirted with by some married woman? Like shaking her. He was so giddy. My goodness. Yo, without even like she stole my man without stealing my man. But they deserved each other. If a man can be flirted with and so therefore successfully stolen from another woman, he's not godly. No matter how much you go to church with him, it's that basic. He's not godly. If in idea. So this whole intention to cause me to dumpster dive and then threaten me with cheleteka palibokisi, threaten me with, hey, there's a passport guy that wants you, but they're really rude and they're not trying to marry African women. They just want to give you a whole bunch of dollars, and after a time come to South Africa, sleep with you, wham bam, thank you ma'am, go back to the US, leave you high and dry until you realize that you must accommodate Isitembu. That was my dream. Yo, guys. A godly man does not respond to worldly flirtation, especially if he's any kind of godly man that I've been waiting on God for. I am a seasoned Christian now. I was at some point fluffy and on the come up new, learning the ropes. I was drinking milk, but now I am on meat. When I was drinking milk, I flirted with a Temba that I thought was Christian by simply making it clear that I like you, but without really flirting. And that Temba would respond to the flirtation that was more extreme, more out, more robust of a seductress than he did to me. The same Temba. Oh, Temba. That guy was so uncultured and so unseasoned in the things of God, even though I thought he was saved. That's why I had such a massive crush on him. He was always all about that church business, and he was cool with the prospect of waiting for sex after marriage. I didn't realize that him being okay to wait was rather him being okay to wait, instead of it being not an option not to. It wasn't black and white to him that sex before marriage is wrong. It's that he was prepared if a woman didn't want to do it, to wait. He wasn't godly. That's just the problem. But I didn't know, right? I was new. And I was being sanctified, trained up. And so I developed feelings for a guy that manifest Christianity, but wasn't truly. He was among the guys in the parable of the sower that dropped the ball. And with him, I would go so far as to say he's the third category, because the cares of this world kept him from truly loving Jesus. It's not like he heard the gospel and walked away, and it's not like he got persecuted and walked away. He just called himself Christian, albeit being crazy worldly. He maintained an appearance of faith, of religion, on the forefront, but I didn't know the difference between the 3 or the 4 at the time. So for me, anybody that out there called himself a Christian and goes to church every Sunday, Bible study every Wednesday, and is always talking about God, and you can basically have a conversation with him about Christ without him apparently not getting bored, is just as good as any. I was yet to understand that this here is a striving and a testing, and that we have to investigate, peruse as with a magnifying glass if a man is truly godly, or vice versa. I was yet to get there. So in the season of me yet to get there, I just kept on dealing with all this worldliness in Utemba that I thought I could fix him. And I don't know how many times, every night, every morning, I used to pray for at least an hour on my knees by my bedpost every single day. And these prayers I would dedicate family members so that they could get born again, blah blah blah, to God. And of course I spent a chunk amount of time not only seeking the Lord's face to make me fit for purpose to be a wife, but also to fix the man that I thought was my future husband. I liked him so much I would go so far as to say I loved him, that I used to pray for him every single day. And do you know what my prayers were for Temba? God, please sanctify him. I found this guy apparently in the faith. He'd already been roaming these streets in Christianity pretty much since as a teenager, apparently. Whereas I was a new convert, just 26, 27 years old. And here it is that I rock up in the faith just day before yesterday, and I'm already advocating for the sanctification of a man that's been saved for almost 2 decades. This guy was almost 10 years older than me. He was about 8 years older than me. So he was, when I was in my late 20s, 27, 26, 27, he was like 38 or something, 36 or 38. I had massive feelings for him. And yet, despite me being the new convert, and so essentially people should be out there praying for my sanctification so that I could grow from strength to strength, so that I could be graduated from spiritual milk to meat. He was supposed to be the one standing in the gap for me, right? If at all he had identified me and said, this at last is bone of my bone, he was supposed to get on his knees and be like, God, she's a new convert, but I'm not ready to marry her yet because she's still kind of milky. So meet her up over the next year, then like give her meat over the next year so that I can go in there and I guess take a wife type thing. He was supposed to be the one standing in the gap for me, especially considering he's a man. So he's supposed to train me up in godliness, is he not? He's the one that's supposed to be out there having my back, is he not? That's what's God good spiritually. He was supposed to help me grow from strength to strength and teach me. But no, I came into the faith, made observations of his lackluster demeanor concerning the things of God, and then immediately advocated for him so that he would be made prepared and right and ready and ripe to be my husband. This guy every day. I would dedicate him to God in prayer night and day. On some father, these are things I observed, and listen to some of the things that happened over and above that colleague of ours, that female Jezebelian lady that flirted with my Temba. Over and above that, I mean, that was not in even the end of it. I remember one time in the coffee shop, I'm out just chatting with Temba. Everybody knew we liked each other, like it was so obvious, okay? Like we were just spawning around each other, just spazzing, drawing circles on the floor. It was clear that there was a whole bunch of chemistry, okay? Yeah. I'm chatting with him, we're queuing in the coffee shop, about to buy sandwiches or coffee or whatever. And we're having conversation. It was me, him, and 2 of my other colleagues. And we're just chatting about whatever. Waiting for coffee, queuing for coffee, to buy coffee. And there was this one gorgeous lady that worked for the company with beautiful body. She had a stunning body. I can't say that she was immodest. She wasn't. But you know, when a woman has a beautiful body, she has a beautiful body. She has a beautiful body. Whether or not she's dressed modestly, you can see that she's got beautiful contours. This chick was wearing a decent pencil skirt down to her knees. Nothing like basically corporate wardrobe. I can't say she was indecent. It's just that she was hard not to notice because she had a stunning physique. Okay, she was athletic. Yeah. This chick walks by us, greets. We knew her from another department. Hi, lady. And I'm busy chatting with dudes, pretty much all of us, Rabua. This gentleman, human individual that I thought was my future husband, that I pray, that I dedicate to God every single day and night. Like an owl. When I used the terminology owl earlier, I was thinking about that guy. Like an owl, 180-degree turn his whole head, do you understand? He is facing ahead. That's where we're about to go and buy coffee. This chick walks out after purchasing her order, taking her order, and he followed her. Yo, guys. He knew I liked him. I knew he liked me. Everybody knew that it was only a matter of time before the 2 of us walked into the sunset together. I was just basically waiting for this guy to pursue me. And then he did that. This chick with the beautiful physique walks by us, greets, and this guy follows her, and it broke my heart so much. It's like he was my husband, my boyfriend, that out here I'm walking with him somewhere, and then he stares at another woman and I say nothing because I don't want to start a fight. I had no right to fight or raise it. He had not pursued me. So he just made me feel like I was yet another chick that he found pretty, that every so often he stared at. And mind you, that chick that walked by us, that was not the only one that he did that with me with. That day, I was with him and 2 other colleagues. There was a day when I was walking from phase 1 to phase 2. It's like a whole thing. It's the way that the building was made at MTN. With him, we were going somewhere, I don't know, a meeting. Because we weren't so much part of the same department, but we were part of the same department, but not the same team. So I think we were going towards a departmental meeting. and I met him somewhere en route there, so we just finished the walk together, walking to phase 2. And again, this time around, it was a scantily, because MTN and corporate wardrobe, they had no respect to honor it, even though there was corporate wardrobe rules. Chicks, they'll be walking up and down the building in bum shorts, like they were like papa. Like women would walk up at work wearing basically swimwear and mesh on top at work. It was weird. Like MTN was just weird. Nobody enforced rules. It is no wonder I lost my job despite being innocent there. Anyway, this chick that was among one of the very many licentious women in the building were wearing basically nothing to work. Okay, she walks by us. She was an intern, I remember. A short little stoffy of a tiny girl walks right by us with a little mini skirt. And this dude, again, I'm walking with him. Dude, you know that you and I got the hearts for each other. What is wrong with you? You know when they say a person dropped the ball. Shame. Now today he's trying to convince me that he's the one. Anyway, again, owl. 180-degree turn backwards. This guy turned his whole body to watch this chick walk away. And again, I was hurt. And I just continued to talk with him and acting like there's nothing going on over there. He kept doing stuff like this. And I remember taking it to God in prayer on some Lord, I really like this guy, and if he's my husband, he's gonna hurt me because we're gonna go to the mall and he's gonna stare at every beautiful woman there. I didn't even have that problem with my ex-boyfriend, and he was lost. This, that, and the other. Can you please make him gouge out his eye, cut off his hand, realize that to look at a woman with lust is to commit adultery with the heart. Basically, I was out here quoting scripture to God, asking him to sanctify a man to make him fit for me. I wasn't even married to this guy, and yet I was already carrying him in prayer. I was already carrying the relationship. I was not dating him. We were not together. We were only appearing to one day get there. And I was already the only one working on the spiritual health of our relationship before we even went on a date. Thank God. He dragged his feet for so long that I eventually woke up and realized and I let him go. I let him go. I stopped hoping, and with it came healing. Thank God. He wasted a year, and I'm grateful to God for that. And do you know what made me walk away finally? Something happened to him that landed him in hospital, and I went to go and see him twice. I sent him literature and everything because I tried to get this guy to be more sober, to be more pure. I sent him, I remember, a whole bunch of sermons by David Platt on sexual sin to watch to pass time in hospital. And I went to go see him twice in hospital to hint, basically like Ruth on the threshing floor. The first time I went with a colleague, it was like, oh, colleagues came to see me sick or hurt. The next time I went alone. I was so scared, but I went. I was on leave during that time, I remember, so I decided, I might as well just hop in. And a whole bunch of these people were there, I think family members. I was so shy, but you know, he was warm, welcoming, felt really blessed to have me visit him. At which stage, I think he'd already been moved out of the ICU because he was out of the woods. Okay, cool beans. I go home, and on my way home, he sends me a text message saying, thank you so much for visiting and whatnot. I'm like, oh, my future husband is happy that I went and visited him. And then I sent him a text message in response saying, no worries. Hope you get well soon. Be sure to watch those USBs that I sent you, because I sent those sermons that David Platt and whatnot. I put on a USB. Be sure to watch that content, you know. It'll really like show you some stuff. And his response to me was, you're ambushing me. It's almost like a demon took over. He was like, whoa, relax, chill. I feel ambushed. I was so hurt by his response. I was like, but he's rude. And top of that, he knows that I like him, and he doesn't care to be out just staring at other women in my presence, coupled with the fact that every so often he allows one of my friends to flirt with him, and he knew that I liked him. Like, you know when a guy knows that you like him and he is not serious with your crush, like the way that worldly men are, he just is relishing and enjoying swimming, marinating in the, it's like he was marinating, swimming in the fact that a beautiful woman likes him He was just enjoying that the way that a jock in high school would enjoy it. Oh, she likes me, she be feeling me, she pretty and she like me. That's how he was acting. That was so ungodly. He was so incredibly ungodly. And given that he was at the age that he was at, unmarried, and he had just met a godly woman, he was just so irresponsible with my heart. That guy is so irresponsible. So every so often when I would walk in to the environment where he was at, he would wink at me. Hi, Karabo. He would wink, like, because he knew I liked him. It's like he knew that I liked him and he just enjoyed that I liked him. Well, I finally let him go. And all these years down the line, he's busy hitting his head on some niketsang. That was the big, God gave me so much to run with to see that guy was ungodly. But the thing that made me finally just let him go was him telling me I'm ambushing him by gently just suggesting that, hey, overnight while you sleep there in hospital, watch these videos. And he said that I'm ambushing him. I'm on a rampage. Yo, he said I'm on a rampage. Yo, dog, I was a rampage. He used the word rampage and ambush in that text message. And that was enough to make me be like, I'm gonna get hurt here. Listen, that was the final straw that made me finally start to move on. I weaned myself off him. But I remember one time during skeleton stuff in December, we decided to leave the building to go and eat out as colleagues, like a whole bunch of us, like, you know, get Nando's, KFC or whatever, right? And we used his car, and the whole time he kept on opening doors for me and whatnot, and I was like, hey, this guy obviously likes me, it's clear, what a fish face, etc. But when we were going to was it KFC? Was it KFC or Chicken Licken? Because we went to different places to go and buy food, right? I believe I got Nando's like takeout, but then others wanted KFC. So we were now driving to KFC. He was the one that was driving, and he then starts to talk to these other colleagues of mine, males, right? It was me in the car at the back and one other girl, a male colleague, and then in the front seat was another male colleague of ours. And we're out just having collegial conversation. He then says, so what, this guy, but he was so carnal. He was so carnal. It was like ridiculous how carnal he was. He says, so what part of the chicken do you like the most? Because we're going to Chicken Licken, remember, was it KFC? What part of the chicken do you like the most? Nakerata. This guy. I couldn't deal. He's like, Nakerata. Like, he spoke in Tswana. I don't even want to speak it in Tswana because it's just so much more crass. So let's use English. He's like, I like breasts and thighs. He used Tswana. Please, you know, like, y'all, come on. Like, he used Tswana. I can't even say it. Like, I can't say it the way that he said it. He said that that's sexual innuendo, like right in your face. He asked these dudes, what part of the chicken do you like? They are worldly. They didn't even understand where he was coming from. They didn't know what angle he was throwing at them. And they're like, I don't know why. What part do you like? And he's like, Nakarata di. I can't say it in Tswana. I can't. English is just so much more decorous. English is a lot more decorous. Like, yeah. Yo, dog, Nesizulu is more decorous. Amatanga and amabele. I can't. Like, I cannot say it in Tswana. I can't. He said it in Tswana. He's like, I prefer thighs and breasts. Those are my favorite parts of the chicken. And at which point, the two secular men in the car were like, whoa, ha, ha, ha. They laughed. They got the joke. I was sitting behind him, right behind him. Right? Because I get it, he was driving in the driver's seat. I was right behind him. I just looked out the window and touched my face like that on some... He's into random sexual innuendo. Guys, we I felt so uncomfortable even saying it. The best part of a chicken that he likes are thighs and breasts. Basically, he was saying that he likes sex. That, like, he might as well have said it in that fashion. And the other guys in the car laughed while I looked out the window, and I was like, oh my goodness, no. Like, and I mean, that stuff, guys, even before I got saved, it would have been ugly as a worldly woman. I once had a dude that I dated when I was like 19 or 20 that I was very turned off by on the first conversation that I had with him on text after I gave him my number. He started using a lot of sexual innuendo, and it turned me the living daylights off. He started speaking about how he wants to invite me to a braai and he's going to bring boerewors and I must bring... I was like, men that speak like that, sexual innuendo, it's just such a turnoff. It is such a turnoff. I mean, that was obviously hints, you know what I mean? And he never even got to hit that. He didn't get very far. So this dude was among those into dropping sexual innuendo in a conversation, speaking with sexual metaphors and whatnot, and thinking that it's cute. Like, it wasn't. And I'm like, how is this guy a Christian? But that was before he afflicted me with me calling me one who's on a rampage that is also ambushing him and what have you. I realized, I've gotten more than enough to go with this guy. At that stage, I was not unsanctified. I was being sanctified. I was newly saved. I was on spiritual milk, and I did not have the solid convictions I have today concerning what to look out for in a man, right? So it is excusable when in the beginning of your faith, you accommodate anything that comes that claims it's Christian. I did that. But after a couple of years of being seasoned in the faith, when the Lord has trained you up, and then you settled anyway, with somebody into throwing sexual innuendo in your grill, somebody that stares at women. This guy never only stared at other women in my presence, but sometimes I would catch him. I remember one time I was walking with him and a bunch of other colleagues go officing, and he literally slowed down. He was walking next to me, right? He slowed down and then, like, you know, like stared, like looked at me. I was modest. I was wearing some voopsy pants. But he just slowed down so that I could keep walking so he could watch me walk from the back. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that dude helped himself along every night, if you know what I mean. That's the kind of man that had no sexual control, like, at all. He had no sexual control. My ex-boyfriend was in the world and he was not that licentious. Not that licentious, like sexually, like proper sexual innuendo. And then the staring of other women, and then the flirting back, the accommodating of lots of touching and lots of feeling by other women, right next to him just staring me down too. This guy, at some point it dawned on me that the signs were all there. It's just that I wasted a whole year of my life. I was busy holding that relationship together with sticky tape, but he was not being converted or transformed by my prayers, because at the end of the day, the rebellion was in him. He was the one that was stubborn. That's what happens when you are in an unequal yoking relationship. When you are lost. When you are saved and a man is lost, and vice versa. The person who is born again, relationship got tapelo. But wicked men and women, lost men and women, always manifest demons later on the saint. And it ain't pretty when it happens. It ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. It is not pretty, even in the slightest. It ain't cute. When it happens, it is not pretty. I am telling you right now, it is not pretty when it occurs. But once you have been seasoned, which I am now, okay? 13 years in the faith, and I grew really quickly. I was trained really fast. In the season of my milk era, where I was still growing, taking a lot of nonsense in my stride, God protected me from settling. If that man from MTN had basically done that which I was longing desperately for him to do, pursue me. If he had pursued me, I would have married him. I would have allowed him to basically do all that which a man needs to do to get to the point of now calling you his wife. Despite so many things that I was disquieted with Guyana. Okay, I would have dated him. I would have met his people. I would have joined his church. His church, of which was also another concern for me. It was fluffy. I was busy growing from strength to strength, and I started to notice that the doctrine at his church was off. Because I had at some point was at his church too. I walked away from that church, moved to a Baptist one, but he was bent on staying in his seeker-sensitive church. He's the man. I used to pray to God, asking him, if he's a man, he's going to have to lead me. So I can't be more sound doctrinally and more solid with the things of God than him. But one thing I also cannot be is a member of that church of his. It's too fluffy. So if he's going to be my husband, he's going to have to basically grow out of that. And like just suddenly overnight, develop a fever for you. Enough to maturely leave a childhood church that he grew up within, because it's no longer right for him to be in. He was supposed to come out of her, my people, lest he partook in her plagues. It was going to be a striving, perna donkey, to try and get that dude to leave grace. I was not going to succeed, and there was going to be ndwa, because he was holding on to that church for dear life. It was about the church and not so much about the doctrine. So I was fighting a losing battle there. A mammoth losing battle. But in that season, if that dude had pursued me in that time, I was going to, you know when they say sweep under the carpet. Yasha. Yes, like it. I was gonna sweep any and all indiscretions under the carpet. He was also quite miserly too, which for me was problematic, because like you can't be bad with money, tight-fisted as a man, and be my husband. I can't really say that he was miserly towards me, because he had not yet gotten an opportunity to holla at me, take me out, so spend on me or whatnot. But I saw his miserly activity in other respects, because he was a friend. Remember, yeah, he was a friend, and so I got to observe him with money. In other respects, with other things, and he was just so tight-fisted that I was worried. I mean, there's a difference between frugality and being miserly. He was just miserly, like Hlongwane. I saw it, and one of these days he was going to actually be rationing me. Anyway, whatever. He also had no respect for personal property. There was this one skit that we did where I loaned him something of mine, personal apparel of mine, for a skit that we did at work. And in all fairness, I wasn't even supposed to loan it to him, but I was on the come up. Like, we did some skit at work, and guys, they were made to wear girls' clothes. I was unsanctified. I wasn't unsanctified. I was unrude, having thorough, what do you call this, conviction concerning certain things. So I loaned a bunch of guys at work my dresses from, like, I used to buy dresses from Trenery, from Stadifers. Like, I was an expensive dresser, okay? I think I bought that dress for like 1,500. Let's just put that out there. Anyway, whatever. I loaned my colleagues, my male colleagues, 3 of them, my clothes, because we were doing a skit at work and they were gonna be in women's clothes. I loaned them my clothes. The other 2 guys brought back my clothes. This guy, my beautiful dress, blue and white, Jaco Trenery, still never came back. He did not bring back my dress. He was like, ah, it's nothing. I could not believe it. I was like, dude, first of all, you're miserly. Secondly, a dress that cost me 1,500 rand, you didn't bring it back? Bring my dress back. Like, what in the world? You didn't bring back my dress. I let it go, though. So it was the lack of respect for personal property. The Bible says, oh, no man, nothing except love. He didn't bring my dress back. He wasn't supposed to agree to wear it, though he looked really good. He's like, for the first time I saw his legs in that dress. Because usually he was wearing male pants all the way down. He had beautiful legs, I'm sorry. He wasn't supposed to wear skirts. But I saw his legs. Anyway, whatever. He wore my dress. Him and other male colleagues that were secular altogether, worldly men, they brought my property back. This guy didn't. And then there was the staring of women all over the show. Then there was the rudeness to me. Then there was the miserly behavior that I observed. There were so many things that were out of whack that I did not ask for in prayer. But you see, when you're not yet born again, not yet, when you're still kind of unsanctified, like in the beginning, Jefela stages of your faith, and when you have this very strong desire for marriage, when you have this very strong desire for marriage, but you don't complement that desire with prayer for patience to wait for what it is that you ask for from God, you will hastily insist upon something. Even as a Christian, you will hastily insist upon marrying a guy because, like I said, biological clock is ticking. It's a combination. Do you understand? You have to be patient. You have to let God do what he does. And when then you let God do what he does, even if at some point you are insistent on something, if you are stubborn concerning something, if you, as his saint, are like, I want it and I want it now, the Lord will have mercy on you because he remembers that you are made of dust. Insofar as you are sincere about your desire for a particular type of husband, and also insofar as you're sincere about your sanctification, if you are sincere about your relationship with him, the Lord will then protect you even from yourself. It is when Christians throw themselves in spite of all the signs that God has thrown in their direction, when they throw themselves into something anyway, that they find themselves unequally yoked. And these unions, there tends to have been red flags already in the run-up to them settling so badly. But God does not force or coerce anybody. The prerogative of the Christian is to wake up and smell the coffee, realize at some point that this is not healthy for me. I know God, I know what I asked for from him. He said, neither eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor mind conceived the things which God has prepared for those who wait for him. So, just out of sheer self-respect, I see that I can't carry on like this even though it hurts. It is about self-sacrifice. Do you understand what I'm saying? So Christians sometimes just go on right ahead and take what is offered them anyway, and they fall for the trick. They allow themselves to get duped because they have no regard seasonally in that moment for patience and long-suffering. Just waiting. But when you calmly still yourself under the presence of the Most High, you will not enter into your 30s as a woman scared like you're in Antarctica, like your beauty is fleeting. You will enter into an age that the world imagines by at this point you must just run like Sonic the Hedgehog. If you don't ignore the clamorous noise of the world, you will settle really quickly in the climate of a patient God who is immutable, who can award you things exceedingly and abundantly above anything at all that you could ever seek to ask for. But God is amazing in the sense that if at all you're still kind of wet behind the ears as a Christian, and you think everyone in these streets that claims to be a Christian is a Christian because you are yet to learn truly how faith works, in the season of your ignorance, he will protect you. And that's what happened with this guy. The Lord knew that I was wet behind the ears. I was still being trained. And if this guy had stepped up to the plate, if he had asked me out, I was going to make excuses for him. Do you understand? I was going to be the one out here training a man, and that was going to make him passive aggressive because he already had a sliver of misogyny in him. He was not going to want me to tell him what to do. Hence why that day when I advised him, just kind of reminded him to watch those sermons that I sent him from David Platt, why he said that I was on a rampage and that I was ambushing him. I was going to out here lament when we went out on a date and he stared at other women around and be like, but guy, why aren't you gouging out your ear, eye, and why aren't you cutting off your hand? He was going to get aggressive over the fact that I'm out here trying to correct him using scripture. I was going to raise the fact that he is capitulating to lust, and he would have probably rebuked me for it. But because I was as ravenously in love with that man as I was going to want to shut up and mum myself under. A woman is not to teach a man or to exercise authority over him. That I must be silent and that I must just rather take him to God in prayer and advocate. I mean, that is absolutely true, but the Bible also makes it clear that men, if they don't listen to their wives, even their prayers are going to be hindered. That guy was going to frustrate me with the truth of the scriptures, in that I am in no position to go and teach him. But in and of himself, he would have been unsanctified, so he was going to become a striving for me. I was going to try and fix him through tapelo, on some God, like literally grabbing the hand of God on some, make his nose that way, bend it, knob it, fix his arm, do this. People are not robots. They are within their own volition and willpower, basically free agents to do what they want. It is in them freely and willingly obeying God that then you have hit a home run as an individual that meets an individual like that. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if a person does not obey God, and however, rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. So when a person does not respect obedience over sacrifice, always saying, I'm sorry, God, I hurt my wife, but does not have the obedience and the self-control enough to stay himself from doing strange stuff, he is just going to be a nonsense before God. And he is also going to be like a witch, rebellious. And so therefore no different from being a witch. I would have been in a striving with this guy, with me having a glad obedience to submit under a man that I would have been governed by the scriptures to submit under. Such that when he out here be quoting things like, God does not allow a woman to teach or exercise authority over a man. Why do you keep on trying to change me using the Bible? I'm supposed to be training you. I would have submitted myself under that because I would have been obedient to God. But he would have not been obedient to God, so I would have been in a striving. I would have been fighting a man that would have been successfully using the Bible to brittle me. And being unhappy at his incontinence, his lack of self-control, all that jazz. He would not have been willingly submissive to God. And so for those reasons, I would have been suffocated under unequal yoking with him. The Lord, if at all that dude had pursued me, I was going to enter into a marriage, head over heels in love with a man that at some point I was going to be hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I was going to be going through the moods. I was going to be miserable. I was going to basically take in my stride that I'm dealing with a guy that can't exercise self-control. I was going to hate every woman because he would have been flirtable with. I would have had a friend that would have out easily flirted with him as a means to give me a lesson, instruct me how to win him. It would have just not sat right with me, and that chick also always had it in for me. So I don't even doubt that if it all it was heard in the grapevine, that him and I together, him and I, Malobola and whatnot, she would have probably flirted with him because she was closer to him than I was in terms of collegial spaces. She worked closer to his department than I did, so she was going to flirt with my fiance. And then ultimately husband, like that chick all over the show. If at all my man can't resist Delilah, I have no business out here making war and spawning with Delilah. The problem here is the man, do you understand? That would have been my problem. My issue would have been the fact that my husband would have made my life a living misery and made out of me up or by in front of our friends and other casual people. He was also a very warm man, right? Absolutely lovable. So it would have been easy for women to throw themselves at him. So when then they do and he has no self-control, everybody was gonna love my man and I was gonna stand there and just feel like, as that's the wife. That guy was gonna hurt me. And I would not have been able to say much about it. I was going to be miserable until I would snap. Because at some point, women that are to be making themselves submissive and docile under men that are that ridiculous, they eventually snap. And when you snap, you look like an angry black woman that has lost control in her mind. I was just going to look in at you one day. I changed personality, but it would have been something that would have been stewing and brewing in me for years until I popped. Because the dude would have Bible bashed me into submission. So glad and willing submission on both the part of men and women is imperative in these unions, these Christian unions, absent of that glad and willing submission under God, right? These unions, you see them. You can see a happily married Christian couple when you look at it. And you can also see when that both people claim to be in Christ. Only one is saved here. You can see it. You can see it. But you see, this Oki, Mabob, I never ended up married to him or even dating him for that matter. God protected me from myself because he knew that I was in a season of naivety and newness. I was a new convert and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, all excited, okay, for the things of God. And so because I was new, he had compassion on me. But there comes a time when your newness wears out and you now ought to be a lot more mature, such that when you insist on pushing something anyway, God will then eventually hand you over to that reprobate state. He will let you marry the guy that he has been showing you time and time again. Don't do it. He will let you do it because you've been a Christian for 4 years. You've been a Christian for 5. You've been a Christian for 7 years. You are no longer, or at least ought not anyway, at this particular juncture, on meat. You are way past that. So because you are looking at what you call your biological clock ticking, when you are looking at this and are therefore in a rush, and you marry that guy anyway because he speaks enough Christianese, even though all of these other red flags are out just flailing all up in your grill. Honey, I'm not gonna stop you. I'm God. I'm full of love and gentle rebuke. I'm not going to lightning strike and separate the two of y'all on your wedding day, because over my dead body before you will marry my daughter. I gave my daughter instructions. I said, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. What fellowship does light have with darkness? And I also gave her everything that she needs in order to live a life in godliness. I told her what it takes for her to identify if at all you're saved or not. She had everything to realize that you were not bearing fruit, and yet nonetheless married you. So now when she's carrying a marriage, Katapelo Ali one, hoping to be the one holding this man's hand through me, hoping that I'm going to be the remote control that's going to make him fly right, bank left, bank right, go up, go down. I am looking for a cheerful giver, and I'm looking for those who are willingly submissive underneath me. And this person is rebellious, and so they're just as good as a witch. If they don't want me, I can't make them want me, because I am not that despot. I am not that despot. I am not forceful of anybody's obedience. But I did warn you as women that I don't allow you to preach or to exercise authority over men. So when you insist on being with a man that is spiritually less mature than you, you are putting yourself in hot water. You are putting yourself in a position to actually try, train, and instruct a man in godliness, and he will, with passive aggression, respond by calling you one who is ambushing him and are on a rampage. He's going to say you're ambushing him and are on a rampage, because men are the ones that I gave authority to teach. And when they feel like a woman is taking on the reins of power, given that it is their curse under Adam to want to rule you, when they start to feel like you're taking on their scepter, they will respond in passive aggression and flat out refuse to listen to you. So absent of a man willingly making himself docile under God and submitting under God and his precepts and loving a wife the way that Christ loved the church, you are not going to be good as a Christian woman under any man of a different status. No matter how godly you are, and no matter how true the words you might speak might be coming out of your mouth, if they come out of your mouth and he feels like you are instructing him, he will resist them purely because they're coming out of your mouth, because he will not see them as coming out of mine. He will resist you. And so there will be a striving and a tossing in the wind. In that marriage, you will have a bere as a donkey or a donkey as a bere. But not donkey, it will be an unequal yoking union. It's not going to give. It is not going to give. So Christian women, or women at all, who ran down the aisle, who sped down and said, Gunjena, I waited on God for a husband and this is the nonsense that I got. No, honey. You might have waited, but you waited for what you called enough time. You are the one that gave God a deadline, not the other way around. You said, if by 35 I am not married, whoever asks me out at the office party and within 5 months proposes marriage, I'm going to marry him. You are the one that said, if by 32 I'm not married, I'm getting married. You are the one that said, if by 40 I'm not married, I'm getting married. You are the one that basically gave the author of time a deadline. And so the next dude that rocked up, even though he paled in comparison to your pagan ex-boyfriend, albeit having a profession of Christianity on his tongue, when he proposed, you married him. And now here it is that you're divorcing after 3 years, saying, Kodwa mina ngimile Karabo is like that. I was literally encircled by a bunch of cray-cray females in my dream. You're looking at me on some, there was no other way around this for us. So what makes you think you're different? Herein lies the difference. I did not give God red tape. I did not give him duct tape. And I also did not give him a yardstick. I did not give him a barometer. I did not give God a measuring tape and said that I have to be this many centimeters around my waist before I can fit into my wedding dress before I will get married. I said, when you say I get married, I guess I will get married even if I'm 2 centimeters too thick for my wedding dress, because you said that's the date that I'm getting married at. I gave God the barometer. I gave him the yardstick and the measuring tape. I gave him the determination to set the date for me. So at the age of 40, I have not entered into these years, these decades of mine, with any level of trepidation, scared that, I did not enter into these 40 years of age trepidatious that God dropped the ball, he forgot, he winced. Oh, but you were supposed to marry by 37. Karabo, because you set a date that by the age of 30 you should have one cute little baby already. Look at you be 40, I guess go make babies real quick. Run. I did not do that to God. I simply said, okay, I'm frustrated, my hope is deferred, and my heart is sick, but you're God, so what's gonna give next year? Look at 2024 come and go with me being all arid in Husband Boulevard. But it's all good in the hood, because I guess the measuring tape is not yet fit for me to get married, is it? I waited. So you don't get to put me in the same bandwagon of all of y'all that trashed through the streets of dustbins, hunting for men that did not make you men. I did not go and make myself a nude little OnlyFans model before American men who hurt me so much that I eventually embraced isitembu. Because that's the thing about paying y'all women, right? You will be endured through a whole bunch of rubbish boyfriends for 20 years, such that by the time you settle, you are only doing it because it's apparently the lesser evil. It's apparently the lesser evil. When you get treated like a prostitute by passport men from the US and from the UK, you will think that these buggers that out here accommodate isitembu, that are trying to make you accommodate being a second wife, that are trying to make you accommodate being a third wife and a fourth wife, these men who are trying to out here marry you, albeit being baby daddies of 20, you will think that they are better than the way that these men are so disrespectful from overseas, who come in and explore the exotic gorgeosity of Africa. Wham bam, thank you, Mehmet. Then go back to America burping, and then block you on social media and garner also their dollars and pounds. I mean, the strategies of the occult are manifold. They are so numerous. They are disgusting. They are plenteous. And how succinct they are is pithy. I can't stand them. But despite it all, they are gawking at me, grooving their sharp fingernails into my chest, hoping that the day's gonna come when I consider something a lesser evil, because these passport guys are indeed ravenously consuming exotic women from other continents, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They are unruly, they're largely black, and they are to be paying you dollars to be red light district prostitutes using social media accounts, asking you for photographs, making you pose nude with all your stretch marks all up in their faces, and then they take a whole long trip down to South Africa, sightsee in Cape Town, have sex with you, claim they'll call you, claim they'll take out lobola, and then go back home and say I slept with an African prostitute, because that's all that they look at you as. After you get devoured by these beasts, you then look at me and you say, Karabo, you can go like a ping pong ball from America to South Africa, South Africa to America. You can go to France and back, and from here to France, but they are all the same. No, honey, I told you, I gave my life to Christ because I was in angst about how unjust this world is. No woman should have to suffer so much under men with no discretion that are so licentious that they will travel across the oceans just to have sex with the woman from Africa. I saw that people are crazy. They can bewitch you because of your Facebook profile, even though the last time they saw you was 25 years ago. But I found a God that can search the earth as with a magnifying glass and find you a man chilling on the outback of Australia with the Aborigines out here hanging out with a kangaroo, to find you in South Africa and make an honest woman out of you and love you the way that Christ loved the church, in spite of your ethnicity, height, color, creed. All that he is gawking at longingly and lovingly is your godliness, because you see, we are rare. So that man out here chilling with the Aborigines is only as single as he is out here getting burnt by the Australian sun, because for 15 years he's been looking for a wife and it's all been dry and arid in Australia, until one day, he was out here perusing the aisles of social media just like all these other perverts that are human traffickers, and found a woman chilling in some strange little town in Congo, and was like, this at last is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She's Eve. I didn't find her in Australia. I thought I would find her in Australia because I'm an Australian, but she's in Congo. And so, like Monica, I will cross the oceans for you. I will go and bring you the moon. I will be your hero, your strength. And then next thing, the two of them are out here chilling with the Aborigines in Australia, hanging out next to some kangaroos, sightseeing, because he took her home in his bag to mama. Because that's just what happens when you find something so rare that you prayed for years that could not be found anywhere left and anywhere right, anywhere left and anywhere right in your own environment. You will be the better guy. Whether or not there is trauma all over earth, with human traffickers coming from everywhere, taking African women, treating them like trash, and then dumping them back in Soweto. Whether or not that is a danger. Bottom line is, God knows how to scan the earth for the dude chilling with them Aborigines in Australia. Because he's the real deal, and he's rare. Jesus Christ is Lord, and he's the only one that finds people for us. The last days are going to be filled at the brim with psychopaths. The great apostasy is going to be happening across the world, on all our continents. It's going to be deep and nasty. It's going to get gnarly and pussy. It's going to be the stuff of a carnage on a vehicle accident scene. It's going to be horrific. And so for us to find one another is going to be a very supernatural feat that is going to make us scan, never mind, the street down the street from us, the neighborhood around us, or even our cities, but the world. It's written in God's word about the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, that will the Lord find faith on the earth when he returns. That's how scantily clad and barely perused it is. So therefore, if at all God is still out here making husbands and wives out of earth's citizens who love him, but there is such a great apostasy of falling away, a debilitating hatred of God, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. If at all, that's a whole epidemic. And Karabo, within 10,000 square kilometers, is the only Christian to be found. Gaze upon this, that the fulfillment of that prophecy in the book of Daniel, that many people will travel to and fro. Among those traveling to and fro will be Christians to meet each other. If God is determined to put you together with somebody, it is written in his word that if God has put somebody together, let no man separate. If the Lord has what God has put together, let no man put asunder. When you are patient, God will bring you a man from a submarine that was out here serving in the Navy for the past 12 years, that had given up on the prospect of marriage and had determined to serve his country pretty much all his life. And one day he takes a holiday, goes to the surface, decides, hey, let me just see what's going on YouTube. Let me read the news. And then a man that never planned to get married because he'd given up, he'd thrown in the towel. He told himself that he's going to be an army man for the rest of his life, because there's no good women anymore. There's no women that are ride or die that are going to be safe to be with as a man that's always at sea or whatever. And then after 12 years of throwing in the towel, having told himself that I guess I'll never be a dad, next thing the dude out here at the age of 46 be taking a lilobola for a woman in South Africa. Understand, it's happening. It's happening. You don't know who God has set apart. The world is so evil, the days are so whack, that when people are truly in God, just the fear of ending up in some marsh pit of darkness, they will just settle for singlehood. They will settle for singlehood, do you understand? Rather than just take anything that comes. You cannot be a man that is that serious about the things of God, and that, for instance, with the army man, you're just a servant for your country. Yamsadi oling wild man. You don't have time for something fluffy. And on top of that, you're super godly. You're a chaplain, or not go the submarine that you serve in. You are just being the submarine preacher. Every so often you encourage your fellow countrymen before you go to war or whatever. In Christ, you're a doctor. There too, out just stitching up people's wounds. You're relatively very serious. When you come to the surface, the people that you see are like your grandmother, your mom, and your siblings. Go back again into the submarine. When you're a man that serious, and you every so often come up to the surface, popping out, and you see the debauchery of the earth, it exhausts you to a point of taking it in your stride, accepting that I'll probably never get married. It's frankly the only reason why you even enlisted in the army for the rest of your days. Until you meet a woman that is worth the while for you to come to the surface and live there already. Because I found the one that is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, you underestimate how God can put people together. He knows how to hide people in the sleeve of his garment until such time that they're ready to be popped up to the surface again. He knows how to raise people up in maturity. He knows how to get people to a point where he needs to get them to. But in the run-up due, Tina, of us who are of him truly, will look around on the left and on the right in the periphery, just gawking at this crazy world and be like, can the world be more debauched? Can this world be more debauched? Can it? When you have been super close, it's written in God's word that draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. When you draw near to God, you guys, the world becomes so putrid that fluffy things that people just let come and go slide, like easy for them to just say it's nothing, water under the bridge. They are just so taxing to you. They are so incredibly disturbing to you that ungamene washona, you would much rather die than settle for that level of nonsense or be single for the rest of your life. I'm at that point. The world is too dark, too evil for me to take anything in my stride. I couldn't. I am too consecrated and have been for years. I've been persecuted for a decade. I've been living a weird little strange afflicted life for too long to see if maybe, where are you coming from over there with your thing that you're doing? It's ugly. The world is ugly. Do you understand? And it's gonna get even more ugly. And it is especially tactless in how ugly it is in the last days. You don't understand righteousness when God is really doing it in a person. What it achieves. It achieves excruciating avoidance rather than settle. You do not know what the Spirit of God does in a person when he moves in. When you draw near to him, when you get close, when you become like John, the disciple that Jesus loves, when you are that tight with God, you have no idea just how disgusting the world is. There is no amount of pressure, attrition, lack, loss, want that could ever make you just suddenly take that which all these years you've been running away from. Because there is faith in them. Belief that God is. And it's unwavering. Psalm 125, the children of God, the people of God, are like Mount Zion, which will not be shaken, but endures forever. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. And the closer to him you get, the more this world flees in its ability to titivate. It is no longer pleasant to the eye. You have no idea what true sanctification can do in a man or a woman over time, especially when aided by persecution and attrition. No clue. But like I said earlier, you gotta be there to see it, to believe it. You actually gotta be there to get it. So you look at me like I'm bizarre, like I just gotta settle. Aleanda, you don't understand. You don't understand. When a person loves God at that height, everybody else eventually, it's just too much of a fluff ball for them to be in the climate of. Because people start out, remember parable of the sower. People start out all prepared to talk about the things of God because people want their bread buttered on both sides and to have their cake and eat it too. People start out looking all docile under the prospect of godliness. But the things of God are like foolishness to the man who is perishing. And while they're cool to embrace for a day, it gets onerous to one who's not indwelt by the Spirit of God.